A curious mix of the quaint and the uncanny, Kino's journey is the travelogue of a wandering adventurer determined to see everything the world has to offer. Accompanied only by Hermes, her talking motorcycle, Kino travels this slightly fantastical world from country to country, observing their culture and customs, but never judging or becoming involved with anyone the pair meet along the way. My initial impression was that we were in for a latter-day retread of Galaxy Express 39, where the characters travel around, solving or failing to solve the dilemmas of those they encounter, and learning something about human nature along the way. Kino, by contrast, takes great pains not to involve herself, instead preferring to remain the aloof observer and often only sharing her thoughts with Hermes. I went into Kino's journey very unsure what to expect from it. Composing a series entirely of self-contained episodes is not unusual, but this series really grabs the idea and runs with it. Rather than have a typical monster of the week that must be vanquished, the main pleasure of the narrative here is in watching how uber-tourist Kino interacts with her surroundings in each new place. In the words of Zap Brannigan, Kino is a filthy neutral, and I think this is really what sets the show apart. Promising to spend only 3 days in each country she visits, Kino is often privy to information or experience that could allow her to change things, reuniting estranged lovers, stopping a meaningless construction project, possibly even preventing a war, but she almost always chooses not to, evidently preferring not to meddle in the affairs of others. While she is occasionally forced to fight her way out of a situation, there's never any sense of Kino aligning or allying herself with anyone, as she only ever serves her own agenda. Much of your reaction to the show will likely depend on how you feel about Kino as a character. Her presence is almost ghostly, shaped as much by what others think of her being there as by her own actions. Even her choice of attire seems open to interpretation. Her androgynous style leads a few characters to mistake her for a man, something she doesn't bother to correct. Personally, I found her unnervingly calm demeanour and extreme sense of detachment made her difficult to relate to, but on the other hand, she's also a supremely competent and resourceful heroine, and that's always a welcome sight these days. While she rarely talks about herself, the series does drip feed you small details about her past and how she came to be the way she is. In a way, perhaps the overarching narrative here is just trying to work out what makes Kino tick as she undertakes this epic journey. The searching, open-ended nature of the series is probably going to cause consternation for some, as much of what happens is left very much to interpretation. Despite its apparent interest in the beauty of the world, the series is also frequently quite downbeat. Although I often sensed something bad was about to happen, the nature of what it was and the lengths to which the series is willing to go often surprised me. It even pays homage to Franz Kafka on more than one occasion. In part, I think the simplistic artwork is misleading. While the delicacy of the original illustrations has been lost in the jump from light novel to anime, the rather bland, faintly cutesy character designs create a sharp contrast to the dark goings-on in the story. The show also takes the rather odd decision to plaster the screen in scan lines. While this is presumably an effort to help give the series an archaic, old-fashioned quality in the early days of digital production, I think it ends up just looking like a bit of an afterthought. Given the focus on its curious narrative then, I think you do need to be switched on to really appreciate this show. It's certainly not mindless escapism, and I think my trying to watch it all in a relatively short space of time did me no favours. Inevitably, the self-contained nature of the episodes also throws up a few less than engaging mysteries, and when it's more about questions than answers, this did make it feel a bit trying at times. Neither was especially impressed with the show's habit of throwing up lines of dialogue and insert cards during the story. This may be more significant if you can read kanji, perhaps imbuing the words with additional meaning from the particular characters being used. As someone who can't read kanji, however, I just found it slightly annoying. Yet, even if the show doesn't always hit its targets, I feel it's unusual and earnest enough to be worth serious consideration. While it definitely shares a lot of DNA with Galaxy Express, it really strikes out on its own path, and I think it takes great pains to avoid that sort of storytelling that wants to teach you a moral lesson. Kino herself is also one of the most interesting anime heroines in recent years. Even the best developed female leads tend to fall into easy categories, so I feel it's very rare to find a character to whom I was genuinely unsure how I should react. Kino's Journey is a thoughtful and challenging series that doesn't rely on cutesy appeal or flashy fan service to hold its audience. The box set is not expensive right now and would highly recommend picking it up. You might just like it. The show actually gave me a strong desire to go off and finish Eat Man, a vaguely similar series about a hired gun who eats technology, but that is a story for another day.